Okay, guys, welcome everyone. Oh, let me make sure. Uh, we've got everybody have somebody out in the waiting room. Why can't I bring them in? Sorry. Here we go. Hi, Claire. Sorry to keep you waiting in the
Hi,
waiting room.
am I the only one here?
No, there are other people here. There are a few other people here. I don't usually set up that waiting room because it's just an extra step we all have to go through. Oh, here comes Michelle too. Let me bring her in. Um, I usually don't set up the waiting room, but I was having some problems with the changes that Zoom has made, and I figured them out. I did the play of the hand one first, and I mean defense one first, and figured it out by play of the hand. But you still had a waiting room to go through for this, and that's probably all of you guys. All right, so this is our defense class, our first weekly review of the 4 defense classes that you'll be taking here in the month of May. And the purpose of the review today is to kind of go over what we discussed last Friday. And, every Sunday when we have this, we'll discuss what we went over on the previous Friday. And then, of course, you'll have access to the video length of the recording that we're making of this session. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to the, excuse me, I'm having some problems here. I'm going to go over to the to share our handouts that we had in the class, and I should have sent these to you earlier. Ordinarily, I send these to you when I send out the link, and I didn't do that this week. I will do that when I send you the link to the YouTube recording, so you'll get those later today. By the way, the recording that you'll be able to see later, it takes a while for the Zoom recording to get converted to a video that can be transmitted to YouTube, and then it takes YouTube a while to convert to load the video into their system. So you won't get the link to the YouTube video until later this evening. Expected immediately.
So, Sally, I have a message that popped up that said convert meeting recording. Is that just something I'm
Yeah,
getting? Is
no,
everybody getting that?
you got it briefly before I changed over to this syllabus. It was on my screen that I was sharing with you. Everybody can now see the defense class syllabus on their
No,
screen.
Nope.
No, no one can.
I
I
can't
just,
hear.
it's the convert meeting recording. This is
Huh,
Michelle.
okay. Thanks. Now, can you see the defense class thing?
yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Okay. Well, here we go with the yeah, that's that conversion I was telling you need to happen.
Mhm.
Still happening on the play of the hand, on the play of the hand class. Okay, so here is our defense class syllabus, and we are using the new version of the defense book. The play of the hand, which is a new edition of the play of the handbook, is very similar to the old one. This version of the defense book is, although the material covered is pretty much the same, they have taken a lot of the extra little jewels that they put in the other book. They've taken it out of this book. So this book is just defense. In the last one, they covered some play of the hand issues and they covered some bidding issues, but that has been removed. So that this one just focuses on defense. Originally, this was part of a 4-book series that ACBL put out that was authored by Audrey Grant. Then later, about 10 years later, it was totally updated by a woman from Houston named Betty Starzyk. The last two, the play of the hand and the defense, Audrey has updated both of those and has kind of taken over ownership back of these. You know, if you want to be into political intrigue at ACBL, that's kind of a problem. But what we are left with is this new defense book. And that's why I ask all of you, even if you had the old defense book, to buy the new defense book, because it's going to be hard following along and keeping up if we tried to use the other one. So this one's been revised enough. We just pretty much have to use this. What we're going to be doing, though, is basically we're going to be covering 2 chapters each week. So 1 and 2 are the first week, opening leads. The second week, we'll be covering second-hand and third-hand play. Then the third week, we'll be discussing defensive signals. That's a large part of that lesson, and developing defensive tricks. And then the last week, we'll be discussing the last 2 lessons, and we'll probably run a little bit over. We may run a little bit over, but the last 2 lessons are briefer than any of the previous 6 lessons. So we will get all the information in. Okay, so what we talked about this week, what we're focusing on is opening leads. And opening leads are different if you are playing a no-trump contract or you are playing a suit contract. And so the first chapter talks about no-trump contracts. The second chapter talks about suit contracts. There are a lot of things that are similar between the 2, but we kind of focus on each one separately so we can see the differences between them and what you should be doing with one versus the other. Before I start talking about opening leads, though, I want to talk a little bit about just defense in general. And I think we need to think about this. When you first start learning to play bridge, we spend a lot of time on the bidding, because that's kind of the thing you need to learn, the thing that is not done in any other trick-taking game is the bidding. And because that's so important, it helps us determine our contracts and get a lot of information about our partner's hand. The bidding is very important. We spend most of beginning bridge talking about that. But as soon as you get the basic bidding ideas down, we need then to start worrying about play of the hand and defense. Because while bidding, either you do bid or you don't bid, but you have to make a decision about which to do. That occurs on every hand. On half of the hands, we're playing the hand, the declarer is. The other half of the hands, we're on defense. So both of these things are equally important. Getting to a good contract with your bidding is not good if you cannot make the contract by play of the hand. And by the same token, you cannot be successful at bridge if you don't have a good defensive strategy, so that you and your partner can keep the opponents from just easily taking the tricks they've said they're going to take. We want to make life as difficult for them as we can. Okay, so all of this is very important. Play the hand and defense both. In defense, we have even an extra level added, because think of this: in play of the hand, one person can see all of the cards that they have control over, because the declarer can see their hands and they can see their partner's hand. And those are the cards they're going to be playing. They're going to be looking at their 2 hands together to make the best decision about how to utilize those cards. Well, defense is always at a disadvantage, because you can see your hand and the dummy's hand, and that's valuable, but you can't see your partner's hand. Defense would be a lot easier if you could see what your partner has, but you can't. So we need to figure out in defense ways to figure out what our partner has. A lot of that can be done from the bidding, what partner said or didn't say as the bidding went on. So sometimes you get good clues from that. But mostly otherwise, what we have to do in defense is use a set of rules to determine what we're going to play and so what our partner should play. And this helps us communicate and build a picture of each other's hands. And you need to be doing this as you're going through playing defense. A lot of people play defense, or a lot of beginners play defense only by looking at their own hand. They're only thinking, oh, what high cards do I have here? Or maybe can I trump in this suit? You know, you're only looking at it from the point of view of your hand, what you can do. But remember, there are two of you playing together. You are a pair, you are a team. As I say, the person sitting across the table from you is your best friend. So you need to work together, because it's together that you can really have success in going against Declare and keeping them from making their contract. The really, really good players, either whether they're Declare or whether they're on defense, are trying to build a picture of the entire hand as they start playing. So they're starting to think, okay, 4 have been taken in this suit. There's this many out now, because you can see either dummy in the declarer's case, or dummy in your hand and dummy in your case. So you can start to make a picture of what the other hand that you can't see looks like, or what the other two look like, based on what they play or don't play. It's hard to do that for the whole hand. The top players are doing that by the second, third, or fourth card that's played. They have a very good idea of what the likelihoods are of what are in the other hands. And for us, we need to start trying to develop that ability a few cards at a time. You can't read the whole hand at a time, but some of the good players I've known have said the way you start doing this is just count one suit. And in Declarer's case, you get used to doing that, because the suit that you count is your trump suit. You always have to count that and figure out who has what. You can do that in other suits too. It's just a little bit more difficult. It's more important for the defense to be able to do that, because as the defensive person, you need to be shifting your point of view from your hand. You need to shift it to include your partner's hand. What does your partner have? What might he be playing or not playing? How can I get to him, etc. There's a chapter later that we'll be doing that's on defensive signals, which is a way that we can start communicating with our partner about these things. But for now, I just want you to think about, this is what we're going to be doing, is we're going to be start thinking about what our partner has in their hand. And the first way that we start doing this, start kind of exchanging this information on a defensive point of view, is on opening leads. On opening leads. So let's start with opening leads against a no trump suit. When we are on opening lead, and here we're talking about the first person to play, the person that leads before the dummy even comes down. That's the opening lead. You will be leading to tricks. When you win a trick as the hand goes on, then you lead to another trick. That's not what we're talking about here. We'll use some other guidelines there. Here we're talking about just the opening leads, just that first card that you play. Now, you'll notice that in a book of 8 chapters on defense, 2 of the chapters are on opening leads. A quarter of this book covers opening leads. Well, why would we spend that much time on opening leads? It's just 1 card out of 13 that we're playing. The thing is, the opening lead sets the tone for the entire defensive strategy. Sometimes, if you make a good lead, the opponents have no chance of making their contract. No matter if that's true or not, the opening lead that you make is going to set the tone for everything else that happens. If you make a good lead, you may start developing a suit of you of your partners early, or you may discover a shortness of your partner's suit that will allow him to trump early. So there can be a lot of things going on, or you may give him information about a shortness of that you have and encourage him then to lead back to you during one of these other cards he'll be playing leading later. So the opening lead is a key ingredient to set the tone of the defense. It frequently is that if you choose the wrong suit and later there's another suit that would be better, you don't have time to develop another suit because you started on this suit first. So the opening lead is extremely important. That's why we spend a lot of time talking about it. We talk about it against no trump and we talk about it against a suit contract. And in both no trump and suit contracts, there's really two things. One, what suit do you lead in a hand? Which suit do you choose? So that's one question. The second question is, what card do you pick out of the suit that you have chosen? So you have to both pick the suit and then correctly pick the card in that suit that you want to lead. So there's two decisions that are being made. So let's talk about this. The first thing is, if partner has bid a suit, lead that suit. If partner bids a suit during an auction against a no trump contract, lead that suit. Lead that suit even if you have a wonderful suit of your own. The reason for that is usually you cannot develop a suit just right off the bat. If you're in a situation where you have the ace, king, queen, jack, 10, 9 in the suit, and you haven't bid it for some reason, but you have that, and your partner bid another suit, then yes, I'll let you play those solid tricks off the top. But if you need to develop a suit, even if you have a really good, like 6-card suit headed by the king, queen, jack, 10, and your partner has bid a suit and you have a couple of cards in that suit, you need to lead that suit instead of your suit. The issue is that developing a suit takes a trick or two. The opening lead is your first shot out of the gate on developing that suit. So you have already made one step towards developing the suit. If your suit is not as good as your partner's suit, you have lost a step from the beginning by going with yours instead of theirs. So you nearly always lead your partner's suit if they have bid a suit. So that's our first rule. Lead your partner's suit. By the way, that's true in both no trump and suit contracts. So just put that in your brain. Partner has bid, lead their suit. So you're going to lead their suit. What are you going to lead out of the suit? Well, there's two things that we need to think about. The overriding sort of idea of which card you choose is based on the principle of leading the high card from the short side first. So if partner has bid a suit, you are probably the short side of that suit. Not always, but usually. And so usually, if you have a high card, you want to be able to play that card first so you don't get stuck in your hand. Then your partner gets to play their suit. So that's the kind of overguiding principle. We already know that principle from play of the hand and other things we've talked about, even in beginning bridge. You know that you need to lead the high card from the short side first, because if you don't win the high card on the short side first and then go back, if you let the long side win a couple of tricks first and then try to win a trick on the short side, you won't have a way to go back to the long side. So that's the principle. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is leading the top card from a doubleton. So if you're leading your partner's suit and you've got 2 cards in the suit, lead the highest one first. The second rule is, if you have touching honors in your partner's suit, you lead the higher of the touching honors. So if you have the king, queen, or the queen, jack, you're going to lead the king or the queen of the touching honors. So if you have one of those two conditions, a doubleton or touching honors, you'll lead the higher Okay. But if you don't have one of those situations, what do you do when you're leading your partner's suit? Well, here is a principle that we're going to talk about now. And this is a principle that we will be using throughout, not just when we are trying to decide what to lead for partner. And that principle is called Boston, the Boston system. Boston stands for bottom of something, top of nothing. So if you have something in a suit, the something being an honor, if you have something in a suit, lead a low card. Lead a low card if you've got something. So if you've got at least 3 cards with a face card in it, lead the bottom of your suit. If you have nothing in the suit, you have 3 or 4 cards with no face card, then lead the highest of the nothing that you have. So bottom of something, top of nothing. So if it's not a doubleton where you're leading the higher one, and it's not touching honors, then you're going to use Boston to decide which of the cards in your partner's suit you should lead. Notice a couple of things about this. One is that if you are leading the top card from a doubleton, and you are also leading touching honors, if you lead like a queen, partner does not know if that queen is the top card of a doubleton or the top of touching honors. It could be either one, right? If it's the top card of doubleton, you've only got one other card. If it's the top of touching honors, you may have a couple of other cards. So when you lead an honor, which we want to do, but when we lead an honor, it may be ambiguous as to whether it's a doubleton or the top of touching honors. Frequently, partner can figure it out looking at his hand and the dummy's hand when he can see the dummy's hand. So he'll figure it out from there, usually. Sometimes it may take a suit to be played 2 or 3 times to figure out which one it is that you have. This idea of the Boston, bottom of something or top of nothing, you play that when you are not. You play that when you are not leading the sequence or leading the top of a doubleton. Then you're using Boston. So that means you have no touching honors and you won't have a doubleton. So you always are going to have 3 cards in the suit of partner suit. Again, we're talking partner suit here when you are trying to lead to it. So if you lead a low card, you're promising partner you have something, some face card. If you lead a 9, an 8, a 7, that says, I got nothing else in this suit. This is the best you can expect from me. I've got nothing. So that lets partner then begin to build a picture of your hand. That's why we do this. We're trying to give partner information. We nearly always lead the top of touching honors if we can, even if you've just got the Queen Jack or the Jack 10. Still, that's one little piece of information you can give partner who has no other idea about your hand right now. So that's, the defense always has to be good communicators and being looking for clues in what their partner does or doesn't do. So if partner has a suit, has bid a suit, we're going to lead that suit. We're going to lead the top suit card from a doubleton if we've got 2. Lead the top of touching honors. If we have touching honors like king, queen, ace, king, etc., we'll lead the top card there. And if we don't have a sequence and we don't have a doubleton, then we're going to use Boston to decide which card of partner suit we lead. Okay, so that's where we use Boston in terms of leading. We use Boston a lot during the rest of the play too, when we're leading or playing to a card that partner has led that's not the opening lead. Okay, so if partner has bid a suit, lead that suit. Mostly partner has not bid a suit. So in no trump, what you're going to do is if partner has not bid, lead your longest suit. lead your longest suit. Because in no trump, we are going to be leading from length. We want to find a long suit between us and our partner so that we can set that suit up and take tricks that the opponents cannot stop. That's in no trump, as you know. No trump is a great thing to play because you have to get less to get a game. But it's also very dangerous because if the opponents identify a good long suit between the two of them, you can be down before you ever get to play a trick. So we look for those long suits in no trump, and we start looking for them by leading your longest suit. That's if partner has not bid. If partner's bid, lead that suit. So leading our longest suit. Now, if we are in the lucky position of having a choice of suits, well, we'll lead the stronger if we have a suit that's strong and a suit that's not strong, or we will lead the unbid suit because the opponents have been bidding along. And if one of the suits that we have is a suit that they've bid, we're probably not going to be able to develop that suit because the opponents have already said they have cards in that suit. So usually, if we have a choice of what to pick, we will pick an unbid suit. And if we have two equal length suits to pick, we will take the stronger of the two suits. Now, you guys remember from bidding, right? If we have two equal length suits, we play the higher. If it's 5-5, we bid the lower if it's 4-4. That's in bidding. Play of the hand, we care about the strength of a suit. We don't care about it in bidding as much. Play of the hand, we care about how the high cards we've got in a suit. So if we have equal length, we're going to lead the stronger. And we're also going to think about not leading a suit the opponents have bid. Now, if they opened with a bid of one club, usually don't take that real seriously if they bid other things and got into another suit. So if I have a good club suit, I might lead clubs, but that's about the only exception. Otherwise, try to stay away from a suit the opponents have bid. Lead an unbid suit. So if we are picking our suit, we pick our suit, we lead our longest suit, and then what we are going to lead, there's a couple of rules we need to follow. If we have touching honors, we are going to lead the top of touching honors. But in no trump, if we lead the top of touching honors, it promises 3 honors altogether in the suit. In a suit contract, we like to lead touching honors, but it only promises 2. No trump is different. If you lead touching honors from no trump, you are promising 3 honors in a suit, not necessarily together. This says lead the top of touching honors from a 3-card sequence, a broken sequence, or an interior sequence. All this means is if you have 3 cards in a row, the ace, king, queen, the king, queen, jack, the queen, jack, 10, you lead the top one. Okay, you've got 3 in a row, you lead the top one, no problem, that's done. But if you only have 2 in a row, like we have the ace, king, jack, missing the queen, the ace, king, jack, we lead the ace, okay, because it's the 2 that are touching. But if we're in no trump, leading the ace promises that we have the king. We always have the 1 below it, but it promises a 3rd one. And the 3rd one could be the queen, but it could be the jack or the 10. So your sequence does not have to be 3 in a row, but there has to be 3 face cards, 3 honor cards, which includes the 10, 3 honor cards in the suit that you're leading if you lead touching honors. So if you lead an honor, it's both touching something else, the 1 below it, and it's part of 3 that you have. The broken sequence would be what we just said. It's like ace, king, jack. It's broken. You skipped 1. An interior sequence is where you've got a high card, a skip, and then two cards together. So like the ace, queen, jack, you skipped over the 10. Your queen, jack are together. Or the king, jack, 10. The king is separate, your jack, 10 are together. In those situations, you're going to leave the top of your touching honors. We always, if we lead an honor, it promises the one below it. But in no trump, it promises a third one. That third one could be below or above where you are. So sometimes this is a little hard to figure out. You're not going to figure it out on the first trick that's played. The first card your partner leads. If they lead a face card against a no trump contract, you know two things. First, they lead a face card, they've got the card touching it below it. It's one thing you know. The second thing you know is they have 3 honors. So there is a third honor in their hand somewhere in that suit, either above or below, but you do know the touching part. Now, frequently you can figure out what the third one is based on your hand and the declarer and the dummy's hand. So, as the partner of the person that led, you usually can figure it out. Sometimes it may have to be played once or twice for you to figure out what the third one must be, but usually you'll know right away. So this is not as hard as it sounds. But you do need to remember that on no trump, when you are leading your longest suit, if you have touching honors, you will lead the top of the touching honor, but that's also promising that you have 3 honor cards somewhere in that suit. That's not true in a suit contract. In a suit contract, you lead the top of touching honors, but it just promises the card below it, doesn't promise anything else. No trump is different. The reason no trump is different is here we're looking for long suits to develop them. In suit contracts, it doesn't do any good for us to have a long suit because they're going to start trumping. So the reason we lead the top of touching honors in a suit contract is just to give our partner a little piece of information about our hand. We got one other little card here. That's all we're telling them. And no trump, it's more powerful. Now, if you do not have a sequence, that is, you don't have 3 face cards or you don't have 2 of them touching, then you're just going to lead the 4th down from your longest and strongest suit. I think everybody's heard that learns how to play bridge. Lead the 4th down from your longest suit. That's if you don't have touching, you don't have 3 honors in the suit, you'll lead your 4th down. Now, the question is, why do you lead the 4th down? Why don't you, if you have 5, why don't you lead the lowest one? Or 6, you lead the lowest one. Or if you have 6, why don't you lead the 5th one? And the reason that we lead the 4th and always the 4th is the rule of 11. The rule of 11 is covered on page 22 of your textbook, if you want to take a look at that. And what the rule of 11 is, it says you take it, it's useful for your partner. It's not useful for you. You're just leading the 4th down, but it gives your partner really good insight because your partner is able to take the number of the card that you led, subtract it from 11, and that tells them the number of cards that are out higher than the cards you led. So if you led a 7, your partner knows that there are 4 cards out higher than the 7. They can see their hand and they can see dummy. So they count the cards higher than the 7 in their hand and in dummy's hand, and that tells them how many cards are higher than the 7 in declarer's hand. That's valuable information to know. If there are no cards higher in the declarer's hand, you can see all the higher cards between you and dummy. You don't have to worry about declarer setting up that suit. If declarer has 3 of there's 4 that are out, and you've got 1 of them, dummy has none, declarer must have 3. Well, there's not too much chance you're going to be able to develop that suit that your partner has led. So in that case, you probably wouldn't return it. You would go on to something else. So this is why the fourth down is important. It's because of the rule of 11. And if you'll take a look at page 22, where it is showing you how this works, and you'll see they're using the example I was even using. Your partner has led a 7. So you subtract 7 from 11. That tells you that there are 4 cards out that are higher than the 7. So look at the hand there on page 22. You can see that dummy has 2 higher, the queen and the 8. You have 2 higher, the king and the 10. That's 4. You can see the 4 higher tricks higher than the 7. This tells you that in declarer's hand, they do not have a card that's higher than the 7. Therefore, they must have whatever cards they have are 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. It's one of those. They can't have anything higher than the 7. This is very useful information. If you did not have the king 10, you had 3 little ones yourself. You had like the 6, 4, 3. Then you could just see the 2 higher in dummy. That would tell you that declarer had 2 higher ones in their hand, and that it might be hard to set up that suit because they've got 2 higher and dummy has 1 higher. So doesn't sound like that suit is going to work out very well for you and your partner. You might need to try something else. Okay, so let's review that. That's the opening leads from no trump. And again, no trump, we're looking for a long suit, trying to find a long suit with our partner. If partners bid a suit, there we go. That's our long suit. Lead that suit. And what we lead is the top of a doubleton, if they've bid the suit, the top of touching honors, if they've bid the suit. And that, by the way, doesn't promise the third because it's their suit. If you don't have either one of those 2 things, then you use Boston to make the decision about which one you want to lead. Bottom of something, so a low card if you've got a face card, the top of nothing. So a higher card, like a 9, 8, 7, if you have nothing in the suit. So that's partners. If you've got, partner hasn't bid a suit, then you're going to lead your longest suit. And if you have a sequence and you have 3 honors, you're going to lead the top of the sequence. If you don't have a sequence, or you have a sequence but you don't have 3 honors, then you're going to lead the 4th down from your best suit. Your best suit is either the stronger suit, if you've got 2, or if you have a suit and one bid by them and one unbid by them, you'll take the unbid suit.
So Sally, can you talk about what an interior sequence is? I must have missed that.
Yeah. And actually, I wouldn't worry about the term broken or interior sequence about really understanding the difference between those. All you need to know is that if you have a sequence, 2 cards touching the other, you lead the higher. And that in no trump, if you lead a face card, it promises the one below it, and it promises another one. The interior sequence is where it's like an ace, queen, jack. The sequence is in the middle of the suit, and the other face card is outside, higher than that sequence. That's the interior sequence.
So
the broken sequence is like ace, king, break, jack, ace, king, jack.
So that bullet point there
Mhm.
Refers only to when you have 3 honor cards.
Yes, yes, exactly right. Because in no trump, if you were going to lead an honor, it promises 2 things. It promises the card below it, and it promises another card, face card, in the suit. That card could be the 3rd card in the sequence, king, jack, 10. It could be an ace, And that's all it could be. If it's a king jack, it has to be one of those two. It couldn't be the king, because if you had the king queen, you would have led the king. So it's a logic that you need to apply, that actually for you to lead it, and that your partner needs to apply to figure out what you've got in the suit. So if you just think about, don't worry about the broken the interior thing. Just think about, if I see a face card, my partner has the one below it, and they have another one somewhere, either higher or lower.
Okay.
And they can't have the one higher that's directly higher. So if
So
it's,
they would have let it.
that's right, they
Mhm.
would have let it. And so if you see a king, you know they do not have the ace.
Mhm.
They've got the queen and either the jack or the 10.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. All right. So that is no trump leads. No trump leads. Let's now talk about suit leads. Suit leads are have some similarities in that if partner is bid, we lead partner suit. So against no trump and against a suit contract, if partner has bid a suit, we'll lead that suit. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. The second thing that we want to think about is in deciding which suit to lead from. If partner's bid a suit, we lead that suit. That's easy. If partner has not bid a suit, then we are going to choose the suit we are going to lead. We will look for a suit that has a sequence in it, like an ace king or king queen. We'll lead the top of that sequence. If we don't have a sequence in any suit, then we're going to usually lead an unbid suit. And partner didn't bid, so this would be an unbid suit of the opponent's. We will lead a short suit, and that's like a singleton or a doubleton, only when partner is likely to be able to win and return the suit to you. A lot of times when we see a singleton in our hand, we go, oh boy, I'll lead this, and then partner can lead back to me and we'll be able to trump. Well, that could happen, but it can only happen if partner has any points in their hand and the possibility of winning a trick and can win that trick and then lead the suit back to you. So kind of the higher the level of the contract is, the less likely your partner is to have points, unless you have no points. Then they may have points. So leading a singleton makes more sense when your partner may have some points and so can lead back to you. So the fewer points you have, the more likely your partner is to have some points maybe in that suit, could win it and maybe lead back to you, or any points just in general. So they will be able to lead back to you at some time. If you can tell by the bidding, like there's been an opening bid and your partner passed and the opponents went on to bid a game, and you've got like 12 or 13 points in your hand. If the opponents have 26 points, have bid a game, and you've got 13 points, 10, whatever, in your hand, your partner cannot have any points. So therefore, leading a singleton is not likely to gain you much. You still may want to do it because maybe the opponents will make a mistake and they won't draw their trump first. And your partner will have a trump to trump, come back if you can, to lead another suit back, and you'll be able to trump it if you have trump. But it doesn't happen a lot. And a doubleton is even less often working, because then they got to win two things to send it back to you. So I rarely lead a doubleton. I do lead a singleton if I think my partner has some points, or if I have a trump stack. I've got a lot of trump. Then they're going to have a hard time drawing my trump. And by the time they have to play another suit, I may be able to trump because I still will have cards in that suit. They're going to have to, declare is going to have to work out something in their plan for play of the hand. So singleton can be a good lead, but people lead it more often than that it's really going to come up with something. Now, many people I've heard, and you guys have probably heard this little rule, is when in doubt, lead a trump. Well, that's not a good rule, okay? Rarely should you lead a trump. There are times when you should lead a trump, and mainly it's when you just don't have anything else to lead, because you don't want to underlead an ace or a king, and you just don't have anything to lead that is safe for you to lead based on your hand. Anything you lead would be kind of taking something away from your hand. So in that case, you may just lead a trump. Or you may lead a trump if you think the opponents are likely to be trumping early. And that's where they have made a sacrifice because they have a long suit. You and your partner have been bidding, and they have bid up with the long suit and maybe sacrifice. They don't think they're actually going to make their contract, but they think they can come within a trick or two, which is better than letting you get the contract. So then you might lead a trump. And that's to get, if you think one person has a bunch of trump and the other person doesn't have many, then you might as well lead a trump to take the little ones off the board so they can't be trumping on the short side. So that's a time when you would want to lead a trump. So there's two times. If they've made a sacrifice and you think they're going to be trumping early, that's going to be harder for beginners to see. And the second time is if it's dangerous for you to lead any of your suits. And we'll talk for a minute about what the problems are of choosing which card in your suit. Right now, we're just thinking about what suit we're leading. Okay. Now, if you don't have any preferred suit to lead, that is, you don't have a good suit, you don't have touching honors, partner hasn't bid, you don't want to lead trump, you want to lead something else, then you will lead a suit that is the top of nothing, a nothing suit, to stay away from other suits you might have to get yourself in trouble. If you lead a 9, 8, or 7, it's saying to partner, I've got nothing in this suit. Boston, okay? Top of nothing. I don't have something, I've got nothing, so I'm going to lead the top of the nothing. Do you lead like a 9, an 8, or 7? Slight possibility it's a singleton, but usually it is a suit you don't have anything in. So you're saying to partner, I don't have this suit. You do you. The next time you get to lead something, I can't give you a good lead based on my hand. Okay, then picking which card to lead in your suit. Once you've picked your suit, if you have a doubleton, and remember I said this is about the least time I'm going to lead that suit, but if you're leading from a doubleton, lead the top card from the doubleton. If you have touching honors in the suit, lead the top of the touching honors. And remember, against a suit contract, you just have to have 2 honors. Doesn't promise a third. So if you have the touching honors in the suit you've decided to lead the top of the touching honors. That at least tells partner, I've got one other honor in my hand, and here it is. If you don't have a sequence, but you want to lead that suit, lead the 4th down. This might be if you have the ace, queen, 10 small, lead the small one. You don't have sequence, but it's a good suit. You've got something in that suit. So when you have something in the suit, you lead a lower card, you lead the 4th down in this case. Now here is a rule that you need to really learn, and that is if you're going to lead a suit and you have an ace in the suit, lead the ace. Lead the ace. I would usually stay away from that suit, but if I think it's good to lead that suit and I have an ace, I'm going to lead the ace, because the rule is do not underlead an ace. Do not lead a suit that has an ace in it by leading a lower card. Never, ever, ever. Okay, that's just a rule we can always follow. There are, most times there are exceptions to rules. This rule, there's pretty much not an exception to. If you're playing against a suit contract, don't underlead an ace. If you have an ace in the suit, don't lead a lower card first. If you want to lead that suit, lead the ace. This, by the way, is not true in no trump. In no trump, you can lead a suit headed by the ace. You can underlead an ace, that's fine, but not in a suit contract. In no trump, it's okay. In suit, no. And the reason in suit contract you don't want to do it is a couple of things. First of all, if you underlead an ace because you want your ace to take a trick, the king has to be in your partner's hand for this to work. And there are 3 other places for the king to be, only one of which is your partner's hand. So it could be at either one of the opponent's hands. So you've led a card lower than the ace and usually let the opponents win it. The second thing is, if you do that and you leave the ace there, the chance of your ace being trumped before you can cash the ace is very unlikely. So that's why if we're going to lead the suit with an ace in it, we lead the ace first. And the reason we don't like to lead aces first is because it promotes every card below it. So if you lead the ace and your partner has the king, great. You've promoted their king. You're going to have the ace and the king. That's good. But the king, again, could be in either one of the other 2 hands. And in that case, your ace has taken one trick, but it's given them the king that they weren't entitled to until you played the ace. So this rule right here of leading an ace, if you are going to lead the suit, okay, but if you're going to lead the suit that's headed by an ace, you cannot lead that suit unless you play the ace. You never underlead an ace. Okay, I want to look at a couple of examples so we can kind of put this into play. So let's look first at page 20 in your book. You'll see some examples there against suit contracts. Some hands where we'll decide what to lead. On page 20 in your book, the first example there, you have your partner has not bid, and you're trying to decide of what to bid here. This is a no trump contract, by the way. We're playing 3 no trump. Partner has not bid. You will pick your longest suit, right? Partner hadn't bid. We pick our longest suit. And out of the ace, jack, 6, 4, 3, which is our longest suit, we would lead the 4th down. So we would lead the 4. The next example, again, 3 no trump is the contract. Partner has not bid. Here, we will pick a suit that has 3 honors in it. We will lead the top of touching honors. In this case, our 3 honors are in a row, the king, queen, jack. We're always going to pick the king because it's the top of the touching honors. Our partner will know that we have the queen, and we either have the jack or the 10. We cannot have the ace in that situation. And you'll notice here you have 4 cards in 2 suits, but you're going to pick the better suit, the one where you can give partner more information, which is by leading the king, you'll tell them you have 3 face cards, the queen and something else, not the ace though. You deny the ace by leading the king. The next one down, your best suit is the diamonds. And in this is a little tricky. Technically, you have the ace and the 10 and a card below the 10. So Audrey Grant counts this as a sequence because the 10-9 is a sequence. And so she suggests that you lead the 10. To me, that would be hard to read for my partner because that 10 could be the top of a 9, but really who cares? Or it could be the highest card in our Boston. And so we're telling partner we have nothing. So I would recommend that you lead the 8 in that case. She recommends that you lead the 10. But I would say lead the ace. In that case, I might even say lead the 4. Again, that's going to be ambiguous because partner is going to think that's your 4th down. They're going to use the rule of 11. It's going to be confusing. But if you lead the 8, 9, or 10, it sounds like Boston. Sounds like the top of nothing. So you can't always get exactly the suit that you would like to get when you want to lead that suit. The next example, she says, with the broken sequence, you will lead the top of your touching cards. But the problem is, when you have a sequence in no trump, you need to be promising 3 cards in 3 honor cards. This, she only has 2. She leads the queen. You would think that she, would know she has the jack. And she could either have the 10 or the ace. You wouldn't know. So in this situation, I would not count this as a broken sequence. I would count it as leading the 7, just to say you're leading the 4th card in the suit. And then the last example here is easier. Here, your long suit is the queen 10, 6, 4, 2, and that is our longest suit. That's what we're going to want to lead. And here clearly we'll lead the 4. So leading in no trump is a little harder if you have touching honors. Because you need to worry about, do I have a 3rd one in the suit, and how clear a 3rd honor in the suit, and how clear is this going to be to partner what I'm doing? Because as we've said, what you're trying to set up is communication with your partner, so your partner can start to read your hand, figure out what you've got. So you want to not confuse them. Then we can look at some examples of what to lead with a suit contract hand. And here there are several examples. In this situation, there has been some bidding by the opponents, a couple of different suits, clubs and spades, and your partner again has not bid. So obviously you have no clue there. You can't lead your partner's suit. So in the first example, they are playing 4 spades. We're on page 56, if I didn't mention that, page 56. Page 56, the first example there is, we want to decide what to lead, and we've got touching honors in hearts. So we want to lead the top of touching honors. That's nearly always a good thing to lead in a suit contract, because we just have to have the other card. It's all we have to have. Partner didn't bid. We can't lead their suit. We don't have anything else, so we just lead the top of an honor. Doesn't say much other than that partner, I've got the queen too. That's all you know about the hand. The next example is very similar. Oh, and notice in that one, you have a longer suit, the Jack 9, 6, 3, 2, but we don't care about long suits in suit contracts. Long suits are not useful to us. They're going to get trumped. We don't care if we have a long suit. We go by the strength we have in a suit. And so in this case, we're going to lead the king. The next one down, here we have 2 equal length suits, but one of them has a sequence. So we're going to lead the ace out of the ace king. That promises the king. And that's really all it promises about the hand. The next one down, the one where we have the 3 queens, we've got 2 4-card suits there. The queen 9, 6, 4 of hearts and the queen 8, 5, 3 of diamonds. How do you pick between those 2? Neither one of them are very good, but that's really all you can do. You can't really tell them anything about anything else. So you can at least say I've got 4 cards in this suit, or that I have 4 cards in this suit by leading a low card, and it doesn't make any difference which of these suits you pick, because really one of them isn't better than the other. The hearts a little bit better than the diamonds, but really not to an extent that it makes a difference. So you could lead either the 4 of hearts or the 4 of diamonds in this situation. Now notice that this is a Boston lead. It's the bottom of something. You have something in each of these 2 suits, a queen. So we want to lead a low card when we have something in the suit. If we did not have the queens there, if we had 4 little cards, then we would lead the 9 or the 8 of the suit. We would lead the high card in the suit to say we have nothing. So this is a Boston lead, bottom of something. The queen is something, not much, but something. Then the last one, let's look at the last one. Here we have 2 suits headed by an ace. But we know our rule is we do not want to underlead an ace. We do not want to underlead an ace. So we kind of take away leading either one of the suits that have an ace in them. And so that leaves the trump suit and clubs. And we said, do not lead the trump suit unless they've sacrificed, which they haven't in this case, or you don't want to lead another suit. Well, here you don't want to lead 2 of the suits, but you could lead the 3rd suit without creating any problems for yourself, without being bad. If you had 3 aces there, you don't want to underlead any of them, then you lead the spades. But in this situation, we have 2 suits that we don't want to lead and the 3rd suit that we can lead. And in this case, we would lead the low card because we do have something in that suit. Not as much of a something as we have in hearts or diamonds, but we can't lead low in those suits because we cannot underlead an ace. So in this situation, the best card to lead would be that 4 of clubs. And there's not too much point in leading the ace in these situations in that hand because there's really nothing to develop there. You've got some intermediate cards, Jack, 10, 9, but a lot of stuff is going to happen before those are promoted to be good. So there's no point, there's no reason to play your ace. Your ace is probably going to be good no matter when it's played. So don't play it at the very beginning unless they've bid 6 spades and you've got 2 aces, then play 1 ace and play the other ace. I think you would have known that without having attended the defense class, right? If you can set the contract, set the contract. And that usually only happens at a high level slam type bid. Very occasionally, you will find it in a suit contract if they have had to bid, like they maybe were exploring slam and stopped, so they got to 5 hearts or 5 spades. You might have the ace, king, queen of the suit. Then you just lead those 3 and they would be down 1. But usually that doesn't happen. You can't usually see that you're going to set the contract. So, but if you can, do it. Don't give them time to get rid of losers because that's what they can do in a suit contract. All right, so this is our defense, first defense class, our opening leads. We are going to have a little quiz on opening leads at the beginning of the next class. So you'll get some more practice doing this because a large part of opening leads is just kind of getting in your mind these little rules and deciding what you need to lead. So we will pay some attention to that. Most of the time in the next class, we're going to be talking about when you play second hand low, but not so low, and third hand high, but maybe not so high. We'll figure out how those little adjustments we need to make to those 2 rules. All right, guys, that's it for today. Those of you that have some Mother's Day plans for later, go enjoy your Mother's Day plans. I plan to. Otherwise, I'll see you in class next week.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you, Sally.
You bet. Bye-bye.